So here's another Celtic Pagan. Forrest, what's up, man? Forrest?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey. So I'm one of the pagans here, and I was wondering I'll try to be respectful here, but I'm not really sure why you take the word of, the Jews that wrote the Bible over the word of all these other cultures that had their own religions.
Well, I think the
response to that would be.
The argument I make for Christianity is from a theological perspective. I mean, from a philosophical perspective. So I start with theology. I don't typically start with just because Jews wrote it down. So I mean, wouldn't that be a kind of a genetic fallacy too? Like because this group wrote a book, it's therefore false.
No, because we have pattern recognition and we can see what the final stage of their behavior is like. It's like, Epstein Island.
Hey, by the way, what's the term? So I was talking to a pagan too, and they said they had a particular epistemology. I can't remember what it was, but it came in virtue of this similar conversation that because I had asked, well, what if a Jew says 2 + 2 is 4? Is it wrong? And the guy was saying, yeah, because it comes from, and what makes it right is if it's from a white European. I was just curious, what is the term though that you guys use for that? Because he named it something epistemology.
He won't know.
No, I'm not familiar with any official term for that.
So would you say?
Argument
Yeah. Would you?
Just going down is that you have to choose who you trust before you even investigate the rest of.
Right. So I agree with you. That's why it comes back to philosophy. So would you say lying is wrong, morally speaking?
Mm-hmm.
On what basis, as a pagan, is lying morally wrong? Since that's a critique of supposed Old Testament Hebrew people.
I mean, I'm not sure I follow what you're saying.
By what standard, morally speaking, do you objectively say that lying is wrong? Why is it wrong? Because that's your critique of why the Bible's wrong, because supposedly the ancient Hebrew peoples lied.
Well, I think that really the only excuse to lie is if you're trying to trick your enemies.
Okay, so that's an ad hoc assertion. What's the standard by which we know that lying is wrong?
I think morals are kind of just intuitive. I think.
Okay, well,
the Bible
so it's not actually wrong. So Jews are just intuiting their need to lie in the Bible. Pagans are intuiting their need to do butt stuff, right?
Well, Tacitus specifically said that pagan Germanics would execute homosexuals by drowning them in a bog. So I don't know where you're getting this.
Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with butt sex, and plenty of pagans argue for it.
So basically, your rationale is that
you're a moral subject. You're a
things intuitively.
There is no objective standard that's intuitive. That's just arbitrary and asserted, and that's why I'm saying, how do you say that a person who intuits that butt magic is right, that they're wrong? You can't say that they're wrong. So you have no basis to say that lying is wrong. It's just arbitrary.
Well, no, it's the conscience, and everyone can pick whether or not to actually follow it.
You're just asserting things. You're just asserting.
And their problem is that either they become numb to it or they.
You're just asserting things. Why ought we? How do you know that everybody has the same? Maybe the Jewish conscience is different. Maybe the pagan, maybe butt magic is part of the right action of conscience. On what basis are you saying it's universally wrong?
I would have thought that would have been something anyone with common sense would.
So again, you're just appealing to things. No, this is how
low. It's also stated in the Bible that people have the law written on their hearts.
Yeah, but you don't believe the Bible. You believe the Bible's a bunch of lies. Why are you appealing to it? You don't even understand that I'm doing an internal critique of your subjectivist position. You can't appeal to the Bible. You don't believe it.
I used to, and I probably know it better than you do, frankly.
You want to bet?
Honestly.
I mean, you can't even tell me why butt sex is wrong. You just said intuition, man.
It's the same con. Oh, it's intuition. What's the conscience? Whenever it supports my position.
Like, do you believe in spirit or not? Like, are there things that are just like we read it and we choose whether or not to believe it because of logical arguments, or are there some things we just sort of know? Like,
you're using a standard.
There's such a thing?
Do you understand in a debate that if you use a standard that is arbitrary, the other person can do that too? So if you say that it's just intuition, then I say, okay, fine. Intuition then proves Christianity. It's the Christian morals that are correct.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the route you want to go, then there's not really a discussion to be had.
Yeah, well, that's because you can't actually argue the position. you just made a fool of yourself by arguing for relativism and then saying that Jews are wrong for supposedly lying in the Bible. But there's nothing wrong with that because it's all just intuition and vibes, man. Corey, what's up?
Hey Jay, what's up? Yeah, in response to sorry, I didn't get his name. The pagan who just spoke. These same scriptures that you know, from Jews, David and the prophets and so forth, is in these same scriptures that are the same ones who say that,
Come on, get the point.
The stone that the builders rejected.
Yeah, they don't care. Yeah, right.
Is a marvel in our eyes.
Right. I was about to go to the fact that, well, the Bible itself even says that the Jews rejected the Messiah, and so they put themselves in that state. So the actual teachings of Scripture actually confirm the very thing that we argue. So he doesn't care about that. Karak, what's up?
I hear about Rabbi Adam Green always argues that, he equates modern Talmudic rabbinical Jews and their ethos.
Yeah, so do all the pagans.
They're identical to ancient Hebrews. How would you know that? Specifically because of that, what you said, they put themselves in a state by rejecting the Messiah. Obviously, there's a fundamental change that happens to their religion.
Yep.
But they don't care.
They don't know or care about that.
Well, they've always been this way.
Karak, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I heard you speaking to that guy, and you said that I personally am more of an atheist. I'm looking into paganism, so I'm not going to call myself a pagan. I'm not a Christian. But you said that we need our morality from the Bible, right?
I said that I argue philosophically that the categories that we use to interpret the world and to have ethics, etc., epistemology and so forth, are ultimately justified by the metaphysics and the deity of the Bible.
Well, for example, like circumcision, it's not something that's native to Europeans, yet it is native to Semites.
It's not native to Semites. It's not true. Semites come from Shem. Semites come from Shem. Shem was not circumcised.
So you believe in like the Adamic race theory?
No. What does that have to do with what I said?
Well, you're talking about Shem and all of that stuff.
The Adamic race theory? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, like, we all come from Adam and Eve.
Yeah, I do believe that, sure. But I'm saying even if you don't believe it, the Semitic tradition of what's in Genesis does not teach that it's native to Semitic peoples to circumcise. It was given to Abraham as a sign of the covenant, and it was a temporary thing that passed away.
Well, we don't really need that in Europe.
Who's arguing for circumcision in Europe? I don't know what you're talking about.
What kind of Christians?
Who?
Christians.
I mean, maybe some evangelical group. I don't know, but
You mean Pentecostals?
I mean, Orthodox Christianity taught 2,000 years ago that Jesus fulfilled circumcision when he became circumcised. Paul says that in Colossians 1 and 2.
All right. Since you're Orthodox, and you know a lot of, Greeks are, majority Orthodox, right? Since Jesus celebrates Hanukkah, which at the time was a military celebration, why would Greeks follow a deity that celebrates the death of their people?
Because the death of the Greeks at that time, if you read the book of Maccabees, was because they were degenerate pagans. So that was before they became Christian.
So the ancestors are degenerate pagans, and
Yeah.
you know, like
All of our ancestors were. All of our ancestors were.
What?
All of our ancestors were degenerate pagans.
You genuinely believe that we needed like a Jewish book to come in and save us? Is what you're saying?
Well, again, you're equivocating on the fact that that would be a genetic fallacy. Because it's a Jewish book doesn't mean that it's necessarily false. How do you demonstrate that? So do you know what a genetic fallacy is?
It doesn't come from our people. We had morals before. Like, for example, in Adelphic Maxims, we had 147 morals.
Yeah, but why am I supposed to follow the Adelphic maxims and not some other random pagan thing? It's just arbitrary and subjective. Your whole ethic, if you're a pagan, is subjective and relative.
Well, you should follow it because it comes from your people. It's
That's a fallacy.
That's an ought. That begs the question.
Why ought I follow it just because it comes from my people? Can my people make mistakes or err?
No, of course, and you should correct it. But you
Okay, well then on what basis? Then on what basis?
Another should. Why should we? You're just giving us what you believe. You're not giving us an argument that grounds any moral oughts. And you've said it repeatedly. Ought, should. You're just arbitrarily.
Yeah, in debate, this is just begging the question. You keep saying ought. Why ought we follow what my ancestors said when my ancestors were relativists and subjectivists?
What? I'm saying that you shouldn't follow a religion that comes from a tribe that views you as enemies.
A tribe that what?
A tribe that views you as an enemy.
Well, the religion is fulfilled in Christianity. It's not rabbinic Judaism. So you're conflating two different things. So no, Christianity is the covenant for the entire world, is for all the nations. It doesn't view me as an enemy.
Well, in the book of Isaiah, if you read it, I mean, clearly states that Gentiles are supposed to be essentially slaves to Israel.
Yeah, the Gentiles, when they convert to the church, which is the fulfillment of Israel. So you're not reading Isaiah with the entire lens of the New Testament.
It depends on who you read, but
wait. So you're reading it? Yeah, you're reading it according to the rabbinic Jewish interpretation. So ironically, you're rabbinically Judaized in your interpretation. That's not the Orthodox Christian. That's not the church's interpretation.
It comes from them, right?
No, it doesn't. No, you're not. You're confusing rabbinic Judaism with the Christian interpretation of the Old Testament. Two different views. In fact, rabbinic Judaism codified itself in the 3rd and 4th century against Christianity.
Depends. I mean,
It doesn't depend. I've got 10 Jewish scholars on my shelf who will say that. Schaeffer, Boyarin, Siegel.
Pharisaical Judaism prospered pretty well from Christianity, but sure.
Prospered from Christianity? How is that? It's the number one persecutor in the book of Acts. What are you talking about?
Well, Pharisaical Jews, essentially, they were invited into Europe, and essentially they were given the entire financing system in Europe.
By who?
By Christians.
No, by the papacy. We were 100% against the papacy. In fact, we call that out. So you're conflating Orthodoxy with the papacy.
I do agree that Orthodoxy in its early form wanted to convert all the Jews to Christianity, but that was later dropped.
No, it wasn't. You're just asserting all this bullshit. Like, where was this dropped?
Dropped? It was dropped around like the 8th to 9th century.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? No, it wasn't. You're just making shit up.
No, I read it. Like, Byzantine Empire.
Where? Show me a source of any scholar who says that Orthodox Christians, the Byzantine Empire, said to stop converting Jews. It's totally made up.
I can find it for you. Give me a second. We're talking a lot of things.
You're just asserting bullshit. There is absolutely. I mean, we Christianized people for centuries. Byzantine Empire forbade usury. What are you talking about?
Well, I came at first when I was talking about money lending. I was talking about mostly Western Europe, but sure.
Yeah, that's not Byzantium. That's the Roman. That's the papacy. I already told you that the papacy is the one that started allowing usury.
But it was part of the same church for
it's not.
First, 1100 years.
Yeah, the first forbade usury. And then the papacy caved under the Renaissance to allow for usury. Go look it up. Michael Hoffman has a whole book on it. So again, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're just wasting our time. So these pagans are the stupidest people on the planet, and they call in with all this nonsense. They can't even do basic argumentation. Landon, what's up? They're as dumb as the Muslims. this other pagan guy was like, look at all this effort you put into debating pagans, and none of your time is spent debating Muslims. Are you what? I spent the last 8 years debating all the top Muslims, and Muhammad Hijab is the last one that won't debate me. So what are you talking about? London, what's up?